Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield, and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, there's a rumble in the jungle. It's out, released into the wild, the Watopia extension. Zwift creative genius Lloyd Murphy talks us through it. Group workouts. We look at the beta and visit a real-life group Zwifting session. At home with the Hump Day ride. Behind the scenes with Australia's biggest and best. And we need to talk about squirrels. Well, one squirrel in particular. Well, I'm delighted to be joined by my fellow Zwiftcasters. Shane, g'day mate, how are you?
I'm very well, the sun's out, the internet is large, I have more space, things are good.
How's the new pen cave?
Yeah, brilliant. I'm just still setting the lighting up, so I'm drilling holes in roofs and...
Adventures in DIY, Shane, and no end to your talents.
YouTube is good for that. I've been on YouTube how-to videos quite a lot. I understand my place.
It is. It's really good for that. And Nathan Guerra, yo dude, how you doing?
Doing really well.
Just back from Long Beach, Nathan. Let's just tackle this now, where you got to see the extension before we did. Now, and John Mayfield came on Facebook and explained that it just was because you were there and there was no favoritism. But, you know, what the hell, Nathan?
They're doing all this testing and like making sure that the build is ready to go. And so employees are riding the course, you know what I mean, to try and make sure, and they're like doing all the things that they do to make sure that it's not breaking. And so there are a few tests that got run, and so I jumped in on a few of those. And if you spend any time at Zwift HQ, riding happens, like lots and lots of riding happens. Yeah. So if it's sitting there, jump on and test it for us.
Okay, well, it is an extremely busy episode. We do have a lot to get through, so let's crack on. Okay, well, much more to come, as you would expect, on the extension shortly. But it's so busy, we're going to kick off with a little bit of a kind of quick roundup, quickfire newsy section. So here we go. Last year's Academy winner, Leah Thorvilson, has had her contract with Canyon SRAM extended for a year. If there was any doubt about Leah's ability or strength of character, I think this decision lays that one to rest. I'm really, really pleased for her. Well done, Leah. Shane, quick reaction from you to that. I mean, that's just a huge achievement, isn't it?
This is really good news. We spoke about this a few episodes ago. What would happen next year? Would she be sort of left in the, hovering, looking for another team maybe, or back to work? This answers the question, and it's, really good news to see.
I spoke to her this week, and there'll be a big interview with her on the next episode of the podcast. Huge announcement from Zwift. 2 big Zwift-backed race series in Europe and in America, and they're going to culminate like they did in Australia with a live final. Nathan, Zwift Loves Racing official.
So I think that the eCrit seemed like a little bit of a like, hey, how's this going to go? It went really well, so it's like, well, let's go at it for the rest of the world. They're going to have this eCrit series for all of Europe, but then with North America being such a large region, they're going to have it for each one of these time zones. You're going to, again, just like we saw in the Aussie eCrit series, the same people showing up week after week, kind of getting to know each other and race each other, and you'll create these cool hubs of racing then that can even spawn their own series then out of the community later on too. So really cool, really, really cool.
Yeah, and an interesting move. I mean, Zwift thread the weight more and more behind racing. Interesting to see. This year's academies have reached their semi-final stage. Of the men, only about 12% who were enrolled actually graduated. In the women's competition, it was double that number. Shane, why?
Yeah, it really was. I'm not sure. Maybe because it's the first time the men's has run. The women, I guess, have an established platform. They know what's coming up, a program to follow. And I guess there's a lot of them who were doing it the second time around, so they know what was coming along. I think a lot of the guys jumped in and went, yeah, sure, let's do this. Let's get it done. And started off and went, whoa, hang on, there's a bit of work here and we have to schedule it in. And a lot of Zwifters are opportunistic trainers. They'll just jump on when they can. I'm the same. So I think it might be just a scheduling thing, but still 12% of around, was it 10,000 or so? It's still quite a few.
Yeah, no. It was still quite a good number. There was a nasty rumour going around that an awful lot of people enrolled just to get that little green logo next to their name, but I think that's rather cruel. Zwift executive Mike McCarthy is a world champion for the second time. He was world pursuit champion in 1992, and 25 years later, he reclaimed the title at Masters level. Nathan, just a fantastic achievement, that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, Mike is a competitor for sure. And I talked to him actually at HQ. And what was amazing is that the training he did for it, I think he said it was like 10 hours a week or something like that. But 60% or more was on Zwift. And he killed it, actually. Like, if you looked at the times, it was like, I think it was like a 10-second difference almost to second place. So it was like all of the rest of the field had gone and he went last, and then he like just blew it away. And then it was like the first place and then everybody. It was interesting, actually. So huge props to him. If you guys saw the pictures on social media, and there was lots of big smiles and stuff. So it's really, really cool to see him go out and be able to take his work and then like excel within his work with his sport. I think that's a really cool story as well.
Yeah. I know he did a lot of very serious training, and I know he held some very, very big numbers. Well done, Mike. Great achievement. Really great achievement. Okay, let's get on to the main business, and the main business is the ever-expanding Watopia. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, a lion sleeps tonight. I haven't spotted any lions, although there is a toucan, and there is a sloth, and a rope bridge, fireflies. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of coverage on the Zwiftcast of this, but let's just get a really quick reaction first. Let me just state my quick initial reaction. I am going to be, I'm afraid, the Zwift fanboy on this a bit. I think the detail of it, the detail of it, and it's very beautiful, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and the detail is like nothing we've seen before. Anyway, Shane, what do you think of it? Initial impressions?
There's a lot of dirt. I think I said that a few times on my first ride video, that it's a road bike simulator and we're on dirt a lot. And I was on the Neo, which gives a bit of a grindy sound on the gravel. But yeah, you're right with the graphics. I think one of my comments on the video was I almost clipped my beard on a sloth. I don't think I'd ever be saying that comment anyhow. That was kind of weird. That's what happened. A sloth was swinging down, and I've got a big beard. It's a weird virtual world, I guess we enjoy. Hill-wise, there wasn't a lot of big climbing, but it was lumpy. And that big swinging bridge, very, very cool. Whoa, that was real. That was like, oh, that's looking pretty. So I like it. It's a good option. It's a long ride out there. But it's pretty rewarding if you haven't seen it before.
The level log. Nathan, let's just get a very quick reaction from you to the level log. I mean, this is quite significant, not so much for the fact that you've got to be level 10 to ride it, but for the fact that for the first time ever, Zwift have related locking and achievement to access to the course. And that might be, you never know, it might be something we see more of. What do you think of the principle?
I think it's a great thing, actually. I think rewards in game for playing the game are great. I think there's also something lost in just revealing everything at once in the game, and almost makes the new sceneries blasé a little bit if you just have immediate access to them all, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, not instant gratification, a bit of delayed gratification. Anyway, and as you said, we are going to come back to this because there's lots and lots to discuss. But first, let's hear an inside view, and I got the chance to talk to Lloyd Murphy. Lloyd is, well, he's going to tell us what who he is and what he does, but basically this guy is responsible for the look of the Zwiftness in its entirety, including the new extension. Here's Lloyd. Lloyd, a first-time caller. Tell us who you are, for those who don't know.
So I'm Lloyd Murphy. I'm the creative director at Zwift, so I'm responsible for the way everything looks, feels, sounds, and tastes.
What did you do before you started at Zwift?
I was at video game companies. I've been at video game companies for since the mid-90s. Kind of a veteran in that whole thing. I've also studied film and music, so I like to get my hand in everywhere, basically.
You're Zwift's Mr. Culture.
I hope so, yeah.
Are you British, Lloyd?
I'm British, yeah. I'm from Lincoln originally, London for a couple of years, and my accent changed. Then I moved over here, and my accent changed again.
Okay, I'm going to bang in straight with this one. Why the South American jungle?
I actually looked at the original outline document the other day, and it's dated October 2015, so it's been a couple of years. It's been on our minds. But the thing is, with a jungle or a forest, it takes a lot of polygons and a lot of engine power to get that to work, especially when there's so many cyclists in a live Zwift world. So, as the engine's improved, it's got to the point where we can actually pull off a convincing jungle.
Tell me why the engine has improved, or how the engine has improved.
We draw polygons to the screen. I don't know if you're familiar with polygons, but they're little triangles, and every 3D object in the world is made from a wireframe of these triangles. So every single draw that it does is a single draw, and that all takes time. Yeah, as the engine updates, improves, and people upgrade their machines as well, we're able to draw a lot more of these polygons. So it just makes the world so much more rich and vibrant.
The improvement in technical capacity has made more richness and more complexity possible. But I guess still, why the South American jungle?
Yeah, it's just it's the combination of that architecture, the Mayan style architecture that we all like that stuff. It's very futuristic looking, considering it's an ancient thing, and then combining that with the actual jungle elements, vines and trees and all that stuff. It all just looks really nice.
What's the process, Lloyd, for designing, what is, I mean, I know it's an extension of this, but it's because it's such a different look, it's kind of effectively a new world for Zwift. What's the process for designing a new world?
The road is always number one to Zwift. We come up with how long it's going to be, the character, the personality of the road, and how, what the elevation is going to be like. Is it going to be straight or lots of curves in it, or a combination of the two? We use an in-house tool, an editor that's a modified version of the Zwift software, where you can grab these parts and move them around, and you kind of manhandle these pieces, and then you can add to it, take away, put intersections in. It's a pretty involved tool, and it's a very blank canvas at that point. It's a road and some very basic terrain out there, and we make sure it's fun and it feels unique compared to the rest of Watopia. And then at that point, we get into terrain sculpting, and that's essentially kind of terraforming with the same tool. So the trick there is that we've laid out the road to begin with, but we have to make it look like it sits naturally on an existing landscape. So we're pulling up hills and pushing down valleys and making islands and things in this tool. So it makes it look like the road was put over the landscape versus the landscape put around the road.
This sounds to me to be a time-consuming process.
It's months and months of work. There's always little things come up where we kind of get excited about something. We go, okay, what if this road goes left instead of right here? Or what if we put a hill here?
You often see people who say, why does Zwift take so long to give us new worlds? Why don't they just use a game engine like the rest of the games industry uses, and they could knock out new worlds at the rate of about 3 a month if they really wanted to? What's the kind of response to that kind of thing that you sometimes see cropping up?
I'd say that our tools are actually comparable to a lot of the other engines out there, and in the end, it's just there's no alternative to hard work.
What's been the hardest bit, Lloyd? What's the bit that's taken the longest time, or had the most rethinks on it?
It's been the actual the jungle parts themselves. I mean, it's a lot of polygons. We haven't really seen this density since you were here for Jarvis, right, with the big redwood forest.
Yeah.
That was an early attempt at doing a forest, and just naturally it's a very rich, detailed environment. So for us, for all we have these improvements in the engine, it still has to work on something like an iPhone or an iPad. So it's lots of revisions and optimizations. We get it to a point where it looks really, really good, but then we have to make it run really, really well.
Zwift, of course, is a cycling and soon-to-be running game. I mean, how much does that have a grounding effect on kind of flights of gaming fantasy that may occasionally break out amongst your team?
It's fantasy fulfillment, like the volcano. You'd never be able to ride through a volcano in real life. People probably don't go underwater in glass tubes as well. So we're going to get bored of going in the same old places again and again. So it's, there's definitely, we're pushing towards more unusual, interesting places to ride and places you couldn't possibly ride in real life.
God, years ago now, there was some software called Netathlon, and one of their courses, you could ride on the moon. I mean, that's taking it to complete extremities, but would there come a point where you just said, or the senior management team at Zwift said, no, that's too much, that's too mad?
Yeah, I think, it is possible to push it too far, but at the same time, I think, we're always going to be grounded with the enthusiasts and people that like the realistic side of things. But there's no reason why we can't do both as well. Watopia is a set of islands at the end of the day. And the actual locales change pretty quickly, and who's to say we couldn't have an island where there's something a lot more experimental going on? I mean, there's certainly talk about doing that, and I think Watopia just lends itself to that. If you don't want to go to the moon, you don't have to go there, right?
Which feature, when we ride past it in the extension, are you most proud of?
There's a couple of rope bridges across a really deep chasm. It's going back to riding places you wouldn't in real life. I don't think many people would have the guts to go across a rope bridge.
Yeah. So
we have that, and that's pretty nice to ride across. And then there is a big structure, and it's one of these Mayan temples. It's like a pyramid, but very blocky and square, and that's a nice set piece to ride by. But the more eagle-eyed people might notice there's an unfinished road right there.
Well, actually, on my list of questions, which I will get to before the end, is when does work on the next extension begin? But just before we get to that, let's kind of finish off a bit on this one. Do you get nervous before a big release like this?
Oh yeah, every time, yeah. And we always wonder how it's going to go down. It's always, we have no idea. And then luckily so far people have really loved what we've done. So there's definite nervousness around this release. I think in the back of my mind, I think it'll go down well, but you still can't shake that nervousness. And I think it's healthy to be nervous, because otherwise, we're just doing the same thing again and again.
Yeah. And when does work on the next one begin, or has it already started?
It's already started. Yeah, we're already underway with things there, so I can't really say more than that. This one's going to be interesting as well. This is something we haven't really done before, so.
Okay. Lloyd, thank you very much for being so generous with your time and giving us a real insight into how this new extension was created. Great to hear all that stuff. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Simon.
Interesting chat, that one. The thing that made me prick up my ears, Shane, was talk of experimental island. What do you think? Place where they test all kinds of crazy stuff?
That would be really good. It's software. They can do anything. They can make us ride upside down and loop-to-loops and rainbow roads, and they can do erg mode or non-erg mode or half erg. Who knows? It's all just software. So I'd love to see something like that implemented, and maybe to some crazy place, and imagine racing through like zero gravity or something like that. It's all possible. So I can't wait to see what may come of that.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to Nathan in a minute about more about this level lock issue, but can we just discuss dust? I've only ridden it once, and I got behind 2 or 3 guys, and we rode around in a little pack, as you do on Zwift, and it was dusty. To be honest, it was dusty, and I thought to myself, why are we obscuring all these beautiful graphics and this amazing landscape with dust? Now, I know they're going to turn it down for group rides, but is there an argument for turning it right down in normal use, or even, dare I say it, getting rid of it altogether?
The dust itself causes a few issues with frame rates, especially on older systems. Even my little Alienwares over here sort of bogged down a little bit in big groups. It's a bit of an off-road simulator, the new course. So I think it needs to be just smoothed out. Maybe they didn't have paved roads back then, or hard. Maybe we could just invent that for them. And just smooth things out a little bit. Or maybe a bit of rain could come in and just sort of taper that down a little bit. But the dust, there was a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it for me, it was the only kind of criticism I had of it, because I think it's terrific. Okay, Nathan, the level lock, interesting. I mean, Facebook polls. I know Facebook polls, but there was a poll on the kind of principle of the level lock for people over level 10, only over level 10 getting access. And if you looked at it, the stats were massively towards all the positive options. I think there were about 800 people who said it's fair, it's fine, don't stress about it. And I think there were about 100 people who said stuff like, well, I'm paying for this game, why can't I get all of the game? So, to be honest, I think the level lock debate has pretty much been had, actually. And I think, the principle's been established. I think the vast majority of people think it's a good principle. There is one issue, though, and that is, should it have been signalled in advance to give a chance to people who are on level 7 or 8 or 9 the chance to get the mileage in so that they could have got access to it immediately? Should they have given a bit of warning about it?
I think that's a hard one. And I think they thought long and hard about that as well. Like, how do we make this not such a big hit without just telling everybody what we're going to do? And when it came down to it, it was like, well, we just do it. And then it just becomes the norm.
I mean, having established the principle now of access to certain parts of the world level locked, do you think that's going to be extended? Do you think we're going to see more of it, Nathan?
I sure hope so. I really do hope so. I hope that they build more and more incentive for people to ride more in their program and to get the experience of unlocking and exploring new worlds. One of the best ways, and we've seen it over and over again, we've ad nauseum talked about how it's like the most efficient way to train. So for those of you who are like looking for the best training, this is more incentive to do it in the best way. And then on top of that, you've got people who want to get in shape who would just be encouraged to ride more. You know what I mean? Like, it's a win-win.
The new extension contained tantalizing hints of an extension to the extension. We've seen the usual signs. We've seen the construction traffic and our little road heading off into Lord knows where. Now, John Mayfield did hint somewhere in the depths of Facebook that Zwift was, I think the words he used were, playing around with the idea of a very, very long climb. I mean, my views on this are well known. I think long climbs on trainers are boring. But elsewhere, there was a hint that they may be doing this not so much for athletic reasons, as it were, as for strategic reasons. I mean, Road Grand Tours have just released a new landscape. They seem to be gaining traction, although they've got a long way to go. So do you think that this is a strategic move for Zwift to introduce a very long climb? Not so much to enhance user experiences, because I think it would appeal to a tiny number of people, but to potentially see off rivals.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're on the money there with only a few people actually ride up it, like on a regular basis. I think everyone will try it once and not like it.
Nathan, long climbs on trainers, boring.
Is that definitive? That's great, Simon.
Well, they are for me. I mean, they are for me. Zwift could find a way of making them not boring. They are good at kind of finding ways of making things we thought were boring before not boring, but I still maintain that a long climb on a trainer is just deeply boring. Now, there are some people who will disagree, but it's something that Zwift have resisted so far. Do you think they're going to continue to resist that temptation and that pressure that you see from inside the community to put a very long climb in?
No, I think it's been hinted at. I think the RGT thing, there might be a market there that's really specific toward these iconic things, right? I think also RGT has a really good market for comparing yourself to pro times on a similar, like, iconic course or something. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a very cycling market niche that they're aiming at right now, and that is going to maybe pull away from the competition, I would think, if they were to put some things in that were that like, I think the RGT thing is kind of hitting it on the head, actually, Simon.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if Zwift feel that they do have to. I mean, we know for a fact they're monitoring rivals. Of course they are. They'd be crazy if they weren't. It'd be really interesting to start to see if they are actually going to have to react to what rivals are doing. But I mean, Road Grand Tours, it does look interesting, but goodness me, I mean, I had to go on the new extension and it was buggy. I mean, it was. I mean, I know they're a small team and it's a very, very, very early days and it's still actually in beta, but it was pretty buggy. Not to do it down too much because, I think the more people who are active in this space, the better, certainly the better for the rider and the consumer it actually is. Anyway, okay, we, as ever, will watch for developments with interest. Now, here's something that I think may actually have escaped quite a lot of Zwifters, but I think could be seen in a year or two to be highly, highly significant. I mean, there's tons of new stuff coming out of ZHQ at the moment. This kind of crept out, although crept out is a weird way to say to describe something that's actually on the front page of the website. But if you look on the front page of the website now, you can actually buy your setup from Zwift. So it's a partnership with Cyclops to start with, and you get the entire package, and you get it not from Cyclops, but you get it from Zwift, and there are easy payment terms. So this is Zwift becoming a retailer. A couple of clicks of the mouse, easy payment terms, monthly payment. I mean, I think that is actually pretty significant. Shane, come to you first on this.
It's an interesting one. I wouldn't, though it appears to be you're buying from Zwift, I think it'd be drop ship, zero touch on their behalf. They do not want to become a warehousing company. Let Amazon take care of that. Let someone else take care of the big physical trucks movements and logistics. It's a big task. Zwift are a software company. And they've even outsourced, like even the headbands and things. They weren't on the ant sticks. They were somewhere else, just drop ship. It's just easier to do it that way. This removes barriers. My Magnus video is probably 2 or 3 minutes of building the Magnus. The hammer itself doesn't come with a cassette, so you have to put that on. So people want to buy an experience. They don't want to have to buy a chain whip and lock ring tool as well. So this allows them to just be unbox it and go. Very Peloton-esque of just unboxing and go, but you've BYO bike. Good to see. I thought they would have gone more Wahoo. Zwift and Wahoo have been very close from day zero. Yeah. So Cyclops, was this a bit of a leg up for those guys to help them out a bit? I'm not sure. Be interesting to see if they diversify the range, because there's a lot of different trainers out there. So just to have one brand is interesting. Yeah. We shall see where it goes.
Yeah, well, I think that was an experiment. I do think it's an experimental partnership with Cyclops. Nathan, Zwift as a retailer, is this a good thing? I mean, does it increase consumer confidence to go to the Zwift website to buy your trainer and everything else that you need?
I think that there's a couple of things at play here. The first thing I want to say is that reducing the friction as much as possible about setup. Click, buy, you can trust it. You know, you don't have to be walked through. You know what I mean? The whole setup, besides like they have a very low friction, right? Very low friction on that then. But on the other flip side, they're keeping retailers happy though at the same time. I don't know if you guys know about this. If you go to the new website, you can actually see, click down here and test ride Zwift, and Zwift.com/ZED actually comes up with all the different places that they're putting Zwift experiences in, actually, where you can go test ride Zwift and then go buy Zwift, actually, buy a trainer setup for Zwift specifically on, at the local. So I heard this before from Zwift. I think somewhere was like, how to play well with everybody in the sandbox or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think they're trying to play really well with the manufacturers in these partnerships. And the Cyclops one is North America only, I'm pretty sure. Like, you can't take advantage of that one unless you're in North America. And so they're going to start not just doing this with Cyclops, I would think they would try and partner all over the place with everybody that they can play. And that's the same way they made their software, right? So that it's compatible with everything out there. So I think they're trying to be very compatible with all of the different ways the market can function right now, where it's like super competitive at the local, the online, and that's a big fight all over the place right now.
Yeah. Very good point, Nathan. Actually, and thanks for pointing that out on the website. I have to say, that's the first I've seen of that. I mean, there's so much new stuff coming out of Zwift so fast. It's kind of hard to keep up, actually. And the website was completely redesigned as well, wasn't it? Alongside with the rebrand. So there's clearly new content on that. It might pay for people, including me, actually, to go and have a bit of a sniff around the website and see what's. I
didn't even know how to find that till this weekend.
Yeah. Shane, had you spotted that as a matter of interest?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I looked at the cat on the front page, and I kept diving past the cat to see what was new.
Oh my god! What's the cat's name? What's the sloth's name? And I think we're going to talk about Scottie a little bit too.
Yes. I am gonna risk controversy by making a proposal about Scottie, but
I'll have the cat's name by the end of the show.
we will get to that shortly. Okay, well, as we've been saying, I mean, new stuff is coming out of Zwift thick and fast, as you would expect, really, as the training season really gets going. And another new feature, which hasn't been trumpeted from the rooftops, I mean, it's noted and it's promoted, but it's not really been fanfared, if that's a word, is group workouts. It's in beta. But it's there. It's available in events, and I clicked on one and joined it. And here's my just really quick reaction to being part of a group workout. I joined a group workout alongside 50 or so other riders, including leading racer Kim Little and Charlie Eisendorf from ZHQ. The screen is the familiar one from workout mode, with the power zone graph running along the bottom. By the way, you can toggle that on and off by hitting G on the keyboard when in normal mode. But the big difference, of course, with group workout mode is that the group stays together. Zwift call it a rubber banding effect, and even though the feature is still in beta, this just works. Obviously, someone like Kim Little is a much stronger rider than me, and if he does an interval at 100% of his FTP, for example, he'd soon open up a gap. Not in group workout mode. Even though we're both doing the same interval, me and Kim and all the other 50 riders stay locked together. The only time you lose the group is if you stop pedalling. What's the advantage? Well, for me, it's mainly psychological. You're far less likely to quit on an interval in the company of others. It's just better riding in a group. As they say, misery loves company. But this looks just to be the start for group workouts. Nathan has been testing out group workouts with a live presence from him and Coach Hendy, former pro rider Greg Henderson. You get a workout, plus entertainment, plus insight. And if you've got the energy, you can interact and ask questions and get super useful answers. This is going to be transformative for training, but for now, this looks like a promising start. All the feedback on the workout I joined was good, and the feedback elsewhere after the ride was also very positive. Well, while that video was playing, Shane has done like big research. We can now exclusively reveal, Shane, I believe the cat's name. This is the cat on the front page of the website.
Yes, the cat's identification has been, I've read the tag, I zoomed in. No, actually, I found out through other means. The cat's name is Danny on the front page of the Zwift site. True story. And there was a backup cat called Dexter who was there in case Danny looked too impressed. Because if you look at Danny's like, and that's what they were after. So there was a backup cat. So shout out to Dexter, who didn't quite make the front page of the new Zwift redesign.
How do you know this stuff? How do you know this stuff? Cat identities.
It's on the dark web. It's on the dark web.
The dark web. Oh my god.
All right. Okay. Back to main business. Group workouts. Zwift as retailer, we were just discussing, which was a development which may be seen to be significant. I actually think that group workouts, we're going to look back on the launch of group workouts when they come out of beta, as incredibly significant. I mean, like major significant for the development of the platform. And that's because I think in the fullness of time, we'll see the group workout model, the channel that Zwift used to challenge the current kings and queens of the spin class, which is Peloton. Is this the shining path to a glittering future where Zwift overwhelm these big numbers that Peloton claim to have got? Let's just give viewers and listeners some idea of the size of the opportunity here. I mean, a lot of people may not have heard of Peloton, but they've got a kind of spin class based model. But here's some numbers. They raised over $300 million in their last funding round. Now, just to give some idea of perspective, that's 10 times what Zwift raised in their last funding round. The Peloton business is valued at close to $1 billion, which makes it one of those rare beasts, a startup unicorn. Now, these valuations, I mean, who knows? But you know, it's what the industry uses, and if people get to $1 billion, it's a big deal. The Peloton bikes cost $2,000, $3,000 for the gym grade one, and it's $40 a month to subscribe. Their last funding round included people like the VC company, venture capital company Kleiner Perkins. Now, their previous investments have included Amazon, Electronic Arts, Google, Nest, Netscape, and Twitter. So you would think these guys know what they're doing, although you never hear about their failed investments, or much less commonly do you hear about their failed investments, and they will have failed investments. And Peloton claimed to have invented a completely new business called interactive physical fitness. Nathan, if there is anybody better poised to go into a business called interactive physical fitness and challenge the people who claim to have invented it, I can't actually think who it is other than Zwift. I mean, Zwift v Peloton, it's going to happen, isn't it? If it's not happening already.
The sale up front, though, the fact that it's a bike that sits there and can't do anything besides sit there, the fact that it's $40 to sub, the bike costs way more than my $500 bike and a $250 trainer. I mean, and I can do more things with those things. It's just it doesn't add up as being competitive if it's presented well. You know what I mean? If you presented both correctly to the market and said, here you go, and really it was like full on and honest, you know what I mean? Like both of them were just, here's what we got, honest, face value, pros and cons. Zwift wins out in my head. So for me, obviously I'm a Zwifter. I mean, in my head, it just skyrockets, you know what I mean, in every way whatsoever. But I also think on the competing side, Zwift then on all of the way that they move forward with branding and the way that they move forward with marketing out there is going to have to really push their story.
I mean, the new developments that we've seen, group workouts, the extension of the academy scheme, you could see all of those things combining to give Zwift weapons in the armory to really go for Peloton. I think personally, I think it's going to happen. Anyway, Shane, how often have you been on the road and thought, I wish I could Zwift? I wish I could go to a gym and just hook up to a Zwift station and not have to think about it, and maybe only pack my cycling shoes?
I've used, a spin studio up in Sydney. I've used one in London. It was the same studio, so it had all my credentials already there. Absolutely. We used another one in London North. They're really, really handy to have. Absolutely. There's a difference between push and pull. My explanation, I guess, will be around Netflix versus the cinema. Is Netflix having an impact on the cinema attendance? I bet you it will be, because people get to choose when they consume, not pushed at them. So that's the friction point, I guess, for group workouts and also any sort of online coaching. It's pushed at you at a certain time and you have to sit there and attend at that time. We're used to pulling these days. Nowadays we pull content at our own time. So whether these things will take off, I don't know. They still have a place like the cinema, but I think it's more the Netflix model that you get to choose when to go and when you do your workout specific to you.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, that, Shane, actually. A really good analogy. But sometimes you can with Netflix because you can take it with you. But, I mean, using that analogy, sometimes you can't be at home and you have to go to the cinema. You've got to go to the cinema to see what you want to see. So, yeah, really good analogy on that. You might go to somewhere like a place I visited in Adelaide, which was where people could go and do a group workout together on Zwift if they didn't have a Zwift set up at home. And this is just a quick flavour of what it was like. A fairly frequent question these days for Zwifters is, how can I Zwift away from home? Generally, the answer is that it can be a bit tricky, but there are an increasing number of small operations springing up all over the world where you can find Zwift in a studio setting. Adelaide, in South Australia, is one of them.
So I'm running about 25 sessions a week at the moment.
Studio owner Dave Parsons was an early Zwifter, and he immediately saw its potential for use in a group setting.
I'd heard about Zwift, I knew about Zwift, I was very keen to start a studio, and at the time indoor training was boring, and I wanted to create something that was interesting. I started with a big setup with one big screen, and then once I had the finances, I went to individual, and I haven't looked back. It's been excellent. It's going very well. We've had interest around the world. I've just been over in Perth. We've had a studio, a very keen business over there that's keen to start a studio. So we're looking also to Melbourne, which will be our next venture, I believe.
I mean, the whole thing about Zwift is you set it up at home. So what's the appeal of coming away from home, training together with strangers, sweating in the same room as somebody you don't know very well? How does that all work?
Well, cycling inherently is a very social activity, and almost always you're doing it with a group. You're doing it with someone else. We're tied in with a cafe here. You've got a coach here. You've got someone to push you. You've got someone to teach you how to use Zwift. And there's a number of beginners who come here and they've got no idea how to set it all up. And so we provide an opportunity for you to set it all up in a very controlled, very easy environment.
In a future world, which may not be so very far away, and there are hundreds and thousands of studios like this all over the world, Zwift are probably going to want to start charging people a fee for the use of their software.
I would actually love them to produce a software for a studio, a Zwift Studio Edition, because the main thing with people in the studio is that they pay for a subscription to Zwift, and then they also pay for a subscription to come here to Ergo. These separate fees. So if we could integrate that somehow, I would be very happy.
One of the things about Peloton that helps them is there is this kind of cult of the spin class instructor. But one of Zwift's own rides has developed a bit of a personality and a cult all of its own, and that is the Australian HDR. When I was in Australia recently, I went up to the home of the originator, the keeper of the flame of the HDR, Tim Searle, and got a really interesting look behind the scenes as he leads one of the biggest rides on Zwift. From his home in Coffs Harbour, south of Brisbane, Tim Searle organises and personally supervises arguably one of the most successful group rides in all of Zwift. The Aussie HDR, or Hump Day ride, is an institution, and Tim is its guiding light. I joined him recently, and inside his pain cave, we started, oddly enough, with soccer.
West Ham United, that's the Hammers, the Irons, that's where my family originates from.
What do you do for a living?
I'm actually a sewing machine mechanic of all things. It's a business, we got a shop as well, we sell a little bit, but I spend most of my days tinkering with small machinery.
And long-suffering wife, I saw, just carrying in a case of beer.
I saw, that's great of her. I didn't actually ask for that or order that, but it's most appreciated.
And kids?
Yeah, two girls, yep, 9 and 13, both into their physical culture, which is a sort of dance gymnastics sort of thing.
Well, 1 or 2 bikes in here, Tim.
Try and ride as much as I can, although I seem to be on here on Zwift an awful lot these days, but I try and get out when I can. Yeah, I like bikes.
Not long to go till the start of tonight's HDR ride now, and Tim's making final preparations.
I just try and lay down a few of the instructions for the ride, just the basic stuff, enough to get us off and going, just to try and get everybody not to fly, basically. Got to start pedalling. 248 on the line.
And so begins Tim's weekly battle against the flyers. What does he really think of them?
How honest can I be? They just make our lives so hard. If they shoot off, people that are fairly new, they follow them. They'll stretch everybody out. And the annoying thing is on this ride is it seems to be the same guys every week.
Do they stretch your patience?
Just a little. Yeah. That's
More on the flyers later. But why does Tim think the AHDR is such a popular ride?
I think it's got something for everybody. We try and have the main ride that's sort of achievable for most people without being super tough or super easy, so that people can get a good ride in a big group. People like to ride in a big bunch.
Many people on the ride might wonder how Tim handles comms. I know I have, and it's really simple. It's very old school. Surely there's a better way.
I'm sure there is. I've tried lots of different things on the phone, tried smaller keyboards. I always come back to this, the old faithful. It's when I drop the keyboard things get fun. That's happened more than once.
So how are they behaving tonight, Tim?
So far so good.
What do you think the best skill of a ride leader is?
Probably the best skill, and the thing that I think I'm pretty good at, is keeping an even pace. If you're fast or slow, even if you're riding slightly towards the front or towards the back, just squeeze up or down a little bit, and it seems to keep everybody together.
One of the most striking things about the AHDR is just how many Australian flags you see on the Riders Nearby list. Other nationalities are welcome, aren't they?
Of course. It's, at the end of the day, that was what it was originally designed for, was Aussies. But of course, everyone's welcome. Got a lot of Kiwis, a lot of Brits, depending on the time of year, and even a few Americans.
Do you think Zwift could or should do more to help group rides stay together?
Yeah, probably. I mean, there are a few things that they can do. Get onto the flyers. And I suspect that would have to be either an automated message when they get too far ahead, or fixing their power until they get caught, they come back within a certain distance of the leader. Even just automated messages or something might help, but some of those guys are pretty determined, so but I certainly think it's the front that suffers most.
The nearest the pin competition, where riders can win prizes for being right next to Tim at certain points in the ride, is a real feature of the HDR.
Try and get it spot on. If anyone ever asks, I'll show you. Do a double tap sometimes, and you get two within a millisecond. It's amazing that group changes so quickly. There we go, and whoever on that screenshot is closest are the two winners. Simple as that.
What many people may not realise is that Tim's anti-flyer policies see his LTs or helpers scattered throughout the group, keeping a close eye on things.
I've got a gang of about 12, and they'll sit front, back, and one off with the flyers, and relay information to here through Messenger. Text going as well, because you miss a lot.
So your LTs are reporting back to you on a little private messenger group?
Yes. Phil's just reported 13 flies, 25 seconds up, which is actually pretty good, really. We're normally 30 or 40.
Well, you see, they're risking being public shamed on the Zwiftcast.
Yeah.
With such a high-profile ride and such big numbers, Tim needs to be prepared for any problems like getting knocked offline.
Yeah, I've got 4 substitute leaders all set up. We'll make sure there's always 2 riding. So if I drop out and disappear, the beacon will just go to them and they'll carry on. It always runs. The HDR train always runs.
Do you feel very protective of this ride, Tim?
Yeah, I do. It's my baby. When I started this, there was really nothing in Australia. I've put a lot of time and effort, and I care about it. At the end of the day, I like everybody, especially Australians, just to have a really good experience.
And that experience is heightened when pro riders like Mark Cavendish turn up.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, it was only his second ride on Zwift and his first group ride. He certainly picked a good one. The right thing right from the beginning, stuck right next to me the whole ride. I think he was actually leading pretty much coming into the sprint and just sat up, which is fair enough. Obviously had Andre Greipel the other week. It's always a thrill to see these guys, and they're always very accommodating. They're not elitist at all. They're just one of the guys. It's great.
And that's just about it for another HDR. The only task remaining for Tim is to set the racers off for the traditional after party.
It's always a bit hairy. Beautiful. Off they go. And relax. Tough part of my job. is done.
And that's that. With the ride more or less done, I wondered if Tim had a message for the hundreds and hundreds of HDR riders who turn up week after week.
I would just like to say I'm just most appreciative for you turning up every week. It really makes all my hard work worthwhile. Put a lot of time and effort into this, and I'm just pleased that everybody seems to enjoy it and everybody turns up week after week, so thank you.
Shane, it's just a great ride, isn't it? It's just a fantastic ride. There's something about the HDR.
Yeah, for sure. We saw numbers of over 400 there deep in the Australian winter, but we're seeing other people on there as well. Simon, I've spotted you on that ride a few times, sort of hiding away.
I always try to do it.
You can go easy, or even if the easy pace is a challenge for you, it's how long can you hang on for? And then that last lap, Tim sort of says, okay, everyone, go, go, go. And you can go as hard or as easy as you want. It ticks all the boxes for me, actually. I quite like the ride. I really do. One of my faves.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I thought being with Tim was just how much skill there is in being a ride leader. I mean, there's a real skill, not only to leading the ride successfully and keeping it at an even pace, but that whole thing about how you talk to the people on the ride through the text message system and the tone you do and when you talk to them. And of course, he's got these LTs who help him out and stuff. It was a real lesson, actually, on how to run a group ride. And Tim Searle, well done, mate. You do it very, very well indeed. And it's reflected in the numbers that ride gets. Really, really good ride. Well done to all concerned. Okay, let's talk about squirrels. Let's talk about one squirrel in particular. I think I might catch some heat for this, but the whole Zwift rebrand thing got me thinking and made me kind of look at what people call the brand assets. And one of the brand assets is Scottie the squirrel. To be honest, chaps, I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of Scottie the squirrel. I just think he's kind of juvenile. And, you know, three dreaded words occur to me. Microsoft paperclip. So I wonder if we should have a small campaign to give Scottie a lifetime supply of nuts and send him off to some kind of forest. And we would just got a new forest. Maybe Scottie could have a little home in the forest where we don't see too much of him. Shane, have I lapsed into horrible, humorless Brit mode?
Yes, you have. Yeah. I don't see Scottie a lot. I ignore him. He's sort of in my periphery every now and then, but I ignore it. Just hook up my trainer and ride on. He doesn't really. I was more worried about the sloth that almost hit me in the head the other day on the ride.
He doesn't cross your radar, Nathan. Does he irritate you? Am I too easily irritated?
You know, Microsoft's paperclip was in your face all the time, always doing something to tell you what to do. Scottie I don't know why Scottie has this special place for me. I don't know what the deal is with that. I like Scottie a lot. He reminds me of the banjo guy. Being an old schooler, me and Scottie been hanging out for 2.5 years at least, so now when he pops up in the lower left-hand corner to tell me something, if there was an option to be like, hey, Scottie, how many times are you going to tell me that? You know what I mean? And that option was in the Microsoft paperclip to be able to say, hey, Scottie, shut up and go hang out over here. Yeah. That would be great. My user interface, I've understood it at this point, but to help people out with user interface, I think there's some other things that Scottie can do too. I don't know about Scottie doing those things, but the other day I raged out on ZVA about going the wrong way because I wasn't being warned about going the wrong way early enough. And then I didn't get the KOM on the Epic KOM from some robot who had taken it from me. And so I was and I slammed the wrong key a second time. And so I did 3 climbs up the Epic KOM and went the wrong way. If Scottie just would have been like, hey, dude, you're going the wrong way for this achievement you're going after. What's up, Scottie, man? Sometimes I need Scottie. He helps me out sometimes.
I fear I may be a voice in the wilderness on this one, but I did pursue it. And having spoken to Lloyd Murphy and Emily Mullen, both people intimately associated with the Zwift brand in recent weeks, I did just get their views on Scottie the squirrel, and this is what those two had to say. Interesting stuff, I think.
We're playing and trying to figure out if Scottie continues to have a role, and if so, how do we make him not like the Microsoft paperclip? We want him to be, if he remains, we want him to continue to be helpful, especially as new Zwifters come on board. We're a lot more of a bigger product than we were 3 years ago when we first started. There's a lot more bells and whistles to the product, and it takes a little bit more navigation. So that would maybe be an argument for why we would keep Scottie, to help you navigate the differences between the different rides and different workouts and functionality. But on the same time, we don't want to get in the way of users who have been with us for the time and have figured it all out. So I think we need to sort of figure that out, and whether that remains Scottie or something otherwise, we're going to answer that question down the line.
Should he live or should he die?
Oh, there we go. I think he should have reins put upon him. I think he began running across the road and then kind of turned into a bit of a monster, didn't he? So I like Scottie in small doses. That's how I see him. It's fun seeing him on the top of Hank's garage there. He's running around on the roof.
So, Shane, they are thinking about the future of Scottie. I mean, they are thinking about the future of Scottie. They are aware that there is the Microsoft paperclip risk. I guess probably as an old user, an experienced user, a veteran user, he doesn't impact on you at all, does he really? But new users will see more of him. But, I mean, there is a navigation issue, isn't there?
Yeah, look, I'm just thinking myself, like when you pair a smart trainer, there's a smart trainer, there's a controllable trainer, there's a power meter. They do autofill, but it's still a little confusing. And I've had a number of queries saying my new trainer isn't changing in resistance mode. I'm like, oh, have you done this and this? So there is some hand holding that needs to happen, whether it's from the squirrel. I think bring back the banjo man. I think he'll be a wise old guy who can just creep into the screen and help you out and hook everything all up, and away he goes again and off with his banjo. Maybe the world's smallest violin for a few other people online who get a bit angry every now and then. I don't know. There's many ways you can solve it. It's software.
Yeah. True. Okay, all right. Well, let's see what people think about my persecution of Scottie. I think that may not be particularly popular judging by the reaction from my fellow Zwiftcasters. He does annoy me, but there you go. I'm easily annoyed.
What about Danny the cat? We could bring Danny the cat, who features on the Zwift.com website.
Yeah. Well, I prefer.
He's just always unimpressed.
You can't figure this out. Always unimpressed. Yeah.
But I'd take cat over squirrel every time, I have to say. But I think it's because I walk my dog in the park every day, and like I see loads of squirrels, and every time I see a squirrel, my dog chases it and never catches it. So. I feel I've got too many squirrels in my life. Anyway, there we go. Right, boys, time to wrap this one up. Nathan, just before we go, I have to pump you on this because you've been at ZHQ, and we are seeing so much new stuff come out at the moment that I feel it can't be long until there is a level beyond level 25, and we know one of the reasons that's been so long delayed is it's going to be allied with, we think, some kind of reward system. Is that getting closer as far as you know?
I'm really excited.
Yeah. Okay.
that's all I can do. I'm super excited, you guys. Man. That's all I got. Like, I wish. Hang on. I'm really.
Shane, shall we take that as a yes, do you think, from Nathan?
Look, as long as I don't come out with some Z Bitcoin blockchain initial coin offering that's all the rage at the moment, that just confuses me. Who knows what's coming up? But I'm not sure. How much gamification can you put in something that 40-year-old male and females play? I don't know if there needs to accommodate both sides of the coin, so to speak. The gamers and the people who use it as a serious training tool. Because if you simplify it, if you gamify it, if you lolly it up way too much, people will be back at Trainer Road or Peloton if it provides a better experience. So there's a very interesting balancing act there. But look, it's software and there's markets for both. So I'm keen to see what's coming up. If Nathan's excited, I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that balance between game and training. I mean, it is the absolute eternal question on Zwift, isn't it? And every new feature, you think, well, does it shift it slightly more towards gaming, or does it shift it slightly more towards a serious training tool? I mean, how long can it continue to be both those things, Nathan?
With every implementation of gamification, as long as it still implements also the enhancement of a training tool at the same time, you can meld those two together really well. And we have a new thing. It's not like one or the other. I think it's both and I think that making training fun, fitness fun. The reason why we do this is because we used to watch Netflix and stare at a garage wall. Yeah. And if Zwift becomes the garage wall because it's not interactive and it's not gaming and it's not fun, then people will leave Zwift. So I think actually people need more fun, which is gaming.
More fun, yeah. Well, more fun is a great path through life, is it not? More fun. We need more fun. We need more fun. We need more fun as we get fit. Yeah, good points, Nathan. Really good points, actually. Really excellent points. Okay, let's wrap this one up. It's been a slight technical challenge for me, this one, because I've been using some new software, so I hope video viewers don't spot the mistakes. I'll try my best to cover them up in the edit. Shane, just a really quick one. What's coming up from you in the next week or so on YouTube?
Always videos. Now, they've been doing really well. So my first ride video of the course has over 10,000 views in the first day of the new Mayan course. I'm still getting a lot of hits on the DC Rainmaker article that I did a collab post with over on dcrainmaker.com. So that was pretty cool, working with Ray on that one about the Kona data. So still looking at a lot of Strava stuff, looking at what devices people are using, demographics, new bike stuff, new trainers. It's all happening. Yep, it's busy times.
Good. Well, I'm sure we can catch up with that on you. ZCL, Nathan, quick plug for ZCL before we go.
Yeah, well, we obviously the eCrit series, I mean, that's going to be
huge.
A lot. Yeah. Like we're going to cover the entire thing. So all the way up to the live events, right? So every Monday we got 4 broadcasts going on. It looks like we're still hammering that out to see how it's going to work out to have all 4 of those plus the weekly wind-up.
Sounds excellent stuff. Sounds absolutely terrific. Well done for both of you. And if anybody wants to find either Shane or Nathan on the interwebs really easily, ZCL Zwift Community Live is Nathan, and GP Llama, Shane Miller, YouTube is Shane. Guys, thanks very much indeed for your time on this very, very busy podcast. I mean, I feel actually there's a couple of things that we could have talked about and didn't, and I also feel that there's we could have devoted like way more time to this, but there is a limit to how much people are prepared to listen to or watch, and unsurprisingly people have busy lives, so we do try to keep the show to an hour, but it could easily have run 2 this time. Boys, thanks very much indeed. Look forward to talking to you next time, and as ever, thank you to Zwift for the support that they give to the podcast. But remember, viewers and listeners, they don't influence what we say. Thanks for listening or watching. Thanks, Shane and Nathan. See you next time.